Hi, everyone, and welcome to Meet the Creators. I'm Elizabeth Hansen, the founder of Dramafy, the best place to find and listen to audio drama. And today, we're talking with Glenn Hascall, founder of First Acts Productions and creator of Amplified Mortals, Wednesday's Weather, Dragnet, Upton Heights, Josiah Donovan's Scientific Historian, and a slew of other shows. Glenn has been creating audio drama since 1994. That's the year I was born. Just kidding. He is the author of more than 160 books and is a broadcast veteran. More importantly, he's a husband, father, and grandfather, and finds a great satisfaction in using words to simply create. Welcome, Glenn, and it's great to finally meet you almost in person.
Yeah, it's great to see you too. It's been nice visiting with you by email, but hey, this personal visit is great.
I know, it's great. I am so excited that we get to talk today about one of
Yeah,
both of our favorite subjects, audio drama, and
that's
writing in
right.
general, because, I love it myself. So I think the first question I would like to ask you is, you've been writing audio dramas for 30 years. I mean, I
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even know you could write audio dramas back 30 years ago. What was it about the medium that intrigued you to write audio dramas?
Um, Probably my influence for writing audio drama would be Stan Freberg, and some people might have no idea who Stan is, but he would create things specifically for radio, and since that was the um, being a broadcast veteran, that's what I had been doing 10 years before I ever started writing that. I would write mini audio dramas for radio commercials, and Stan Freberg was kind of the inspiration behind that because he also did a whole lot of radio commercials and theater of the mind kind of things. And so it was just an extension, natural extension of what I'd already been doing in radio. I just went, why couldn't you make it longer? Why couldn't you come up with something that was longer? And the first one that I wrote was a musical, and it took a year and a half to get it finished. And because back then it was reel to reel, it was tape and razor and splicing block and all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, I probably will never take on something that advanced again. It'd be a lot easier today, but I just haven't had that interest. But yeah, Stan Freberg really kind of started it for me. Broadcasting accelerated it for me, and then once I started writing, and of course I'd been listening to audio drama all my life, whether it was and you'll excuse me, I sometimes think of watching television like The Lone Ranger and even the Andy Griffith Show and some of those kind of things. If you weren't watching, you were hearing an audio drama. It was it was just something that was that clear to me at that point in time, and so it's been just wonderful to create all kinds of different worlds that I get to create.
So, my next question, being the founder of Dramafy, is where are all of those audio dramas? Because I would like to hear them.
Well, they are scattered to the wind. The first one I
Yikes.
think I've got. Everything got dark in here.
It did.
Um,
It's a twista.
uh,
It's a twista.
yeah, there we go. A
There
little
we
bit
go.
more. I have the first one that I did was on reel to reel. It aired at a radio station that I was working at for 10 years before I left and it was retired. So I have no idea where that is. I worked with a lot of different audio drama companies, and many of those have the audio dramas that I wrote licensed exclusively to them. So they are, when I say scattered, they really are everywhere.
Mm.
And sometimes they were larger companies and sometimes really small. But probably for the past 3 years, I've been working more steadily on putting new content out, and I have made Dramafy kind of the place of choice exclusively for the products that I'm putting out. So
And we are very grateful, and we're so happy to have them. Um, your writing, I've been listening to uh, your work, and your writing is lovely. It's funny and gentle and always has a good message. So tell me why this writing this way, this style, creating shows that are family friendly. Why is this important to you to write shows like this?
All right. Well, that's an easy question
Good.
because when I first got into broadcasting in 1984, I determined that I would not voice things, I would not write things that would be something my grandmother would be disappointed in. And that may sound strange, but it was just such a simple thing to say. Um, my grandma's name was Esther, so it's like, what would Grandma Esther think if she were to hear what I just put together? And it wasn't some super pious thing, although I am a man of faith. I just really felt like if I could make a habit for the rest of my life of producing content that anybody could listen to, uh, that would be a very positive goal for me, and so that's how it started, and that's where it's continued.
Great. Thank you. Well articulated. I have a question about Amplified Mortals, which I really enjoyed because it's
Mm,
kind of a your take on a superhero origin story. So,
yeah.
at the end of that episode, you tell us why there's only one episode, and but you also set us up for more episodes. So, are there going to be more episodes? Because I really, really, really want them.
Well, I'll have to think about it. I did sort of leave it to where it was possible if I really felt strongly enough about it, and I actually had 3 episodes written, but the more I looked at it, the more I thought, if you just leave it at the one, you leave everything open to interpretation for what happens beyond that, and you don't try to identify. It's like um, having a meal and wanting just a little bit more, but not having it makes you want to come back and have that meal again sometime. And I just sort of felt like one would probably succeed in doing that. And it doesn't mean that I don't think about the possibility of doing more at some point in time, but that was the reason why I kind of just stuck with the one. And by leaving it open the way that I did, I think for me, what it did was kind of say, more happens after this. Where do you think it goes?
Mm, okay. Okay. And I meant to email you several times to tell you that your we'll talk about your artwork in a minute, but the main character on your artwork looks like Tyrone Power to me. So it's really fun to look at. And everybody, all the youngsters out there are going, "Who's Tyrone Power?" So,
Yeah.
a very handsome, talented actor from the 40s and 50s. Anyway, do you have a favorite show? Is there one of those slew of shows that resonates just a little bit more with you than the others?
Well, I don't know that one particular episode or series stands out other than the Josiah Donovan series.
Mm,
And that simply is because it started with a 5 episode series called Dudley Junction more than 10 years ago. And that was done with a group of young people that wanted to learn more about audio drama. So they were part of the original group of people that helped me decide what kind of elements we wanted in the stories, where we wanted it to go. They did the voicing. And then 10 years later, I have this idea for Josiah Donovan, bringing them into the future 10 years after the original episode. And every single one of those people that were involved in the original series of Dudley Junction came back for Josiah Donovan. And so even if it was just for me, it was a very personally satisfying experience to see this sort of reunion of people that remain very interested in audio drama.
let's kind of pursue that with the young people who want to learn more about audio drama. What is it about audio drama that you like the most?
I if I have to play a character, and I used to play a lot on my own. I voice for other people, obviously, and but in my own, it's more rare. I prefer to get all kinds of other people, and that's just my own personal preference. It's not like I think it's best. It's just the way I do things. But um, the uh, the process of putting all of these things together is just um, a blessing for me personally, and hopefully finds an audience with someone I know and I'm probably venturing off track here a little bit, but I had somebody with grandpa time. They contacted me by email and they just said, "Oh my goodness, I'm just wrecked. I did not expect that kind of emotional response to this." And they said, "I've listened to so many of the things you've done, and this by far is my favorite." And I was actually kind of wondering, is this thing going to hit anybody at all? Is it, you know, what was it just a grand experiment that failed? So it was nice and it's nice to hear back from anybody, but it was good to hear that.
How do you produce the show? And how because I know you do it differently than I. I I use I think I usually get everybody together at the same time, and I know I'm
Uh,
gonna be doing a voice for you, for your Christmas show that's coming up. And do you get everybody together, or do you send the script out and then they
but
do it on their own time?
right, I send it out and they do it on their own time, and I have a very specific reason for that.
Tell us.
Um, and I know that it's not the way other people do it, and I think the way other people do it probably is great. But my specific reason has to do with the fact that in my script, I'll give you some primary direction. I'll give you a target to shoot at, but you get to choose what arrow you use. You get to choose how you're going to shoot it, and you get to decide whether it hits the mark or not. And by allowing people to sort of self-direct, I think it gives them a little more ownership in the program. It gives them a little more opportunity to explore ideas. And usually when I send stuff out, I say, okay, give me 2 reads of the line as written, but that third one, go nuts, chew it up, do whatever you want, make it something that is different than it's going to say the same thing, going to move the story along the way that it should, but make it your own. And I'm amazed how many times I will use those lines. And I think it winds up being appreciated by the cast because they feel like, hey, I was able to move this story in a slightly different direction based on what I said at this point. And so for me, it's always been about giving opportunity to people to say, you don't have to absolutely do it my way. Give me some alternatives and I might just take them.
And I would assume also, I mean, one of the hard things about getting everybody together at the same time, even if it's just 2 or 3 or 4 people,
Yeah.
is everybody is so busy doing so many things. Trying to get everybody
Right.
together at the same time is nearly impossible and a headache. And then, if somebody gets sick, they're really messed up. So you've got a new show that I believe you wrote that you collaborated with, um, um Eternal Future Productions called Venture, which
Right.
is a takeoff and a parody of Star Trek. So
Right.
how? Because I know you've been working on this for about a year, a little over a year, I think. So how do you collaborate? How do you collaborate with others? How did you collaborate with, Jonathan and Alicia?
Well, I know their collaboration, like with Craig Hart, is usually face to face. In my case, I wind up being busy enough. They send me some emails, and I remember the first one. Uh, it all goes back to On Demand, which is on Dramafy. Uh, Jonathan had done a spoof series in that where he played Captain Kirk, and it was a Star Trek parody. It was, maybe 5, 6 minutes long, and they were in a bowling alley. It was just goofy, and um, several months after that, they contacted me and they said, we keep thinking we're trying to get this stuff written and we're just not finding the time and we've been months and we're not even 10 pages into the first script and is it possible for you to consider joining us for writing this and I said, well, you want me to shoot ideas? Do you want to shoot ideas? And they sent me the first script. I altered it significantly. We came up with the story, which is now out on Dramafy. And of course, there's 9 others that I've written, and I've got outlines for another 10 should a second season develop. But my writing process is once I have the idea in mind, I just have to go and sit aside and write. I can't, it won't let me go until I get it written. And so what that meant is, in less than a month, I had all 10 of those scripts written. And they provided some input along the way, then certainly more after the script was written. Uh, but uh, but yeah, we got those taken care of pretty quickly as far as the writing is concerned. And so I've been waiting, maybe nearly 18 months from the beginning of our conversation to hear the first one.
Hmm.
But I know that process is, it takes time. It just does.
It does. And especially in audio drama, I mean, one of the reasons I like audio drama is it's cost efficient. It's not an
Yep.
expensive medium, but the result is just as um, satisfying for, I think, the listener as a large budgeted production. So, and that's why it takes a long time, because you don't have the money to pay somebody to do it, you know, as their regular job. Um, So you're very prolific. I mean, it's almost like every other week I get I get a show from you. I'm just so impressed by how well and how fast you write. And here's the important part in that. You can tell you're seasoned because you write you write quickly, but the quality is exceptional. So that's something that, I can tell that you've been doing this for a while. So here's a question. How does writing for audio drama differ from other kinds of writing that you've done? You've written books. I
Yeah.
don't know if you've written screenplays and theater or stuff like that, but how does it differ, or does it?
Well, I have written probably, 400 plus stage presentations.
Like I said, you're
And
prolific.
yeah,
Amazing.
and I did that, kind of after my first audio drama.
Mhm.
Um, I switched for a while and went to stage presentations primarily for, small group gatherings. Churches used a lot of them. And so, I kept writing a lot of that while I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with audio drama. And so that part of it, I think was, the fuel was poured on for when, opportunity came to do audios, dramas online, which I hadn't done at that point in time. It became possible. And so, but the book writing is very different because, most of the stuff that I write is, nonfiction. So it's very factual. It's thought provoking. It's, a lot of things that I try to bring to the audio drama in the end, so that even if they're funny, you have some kind of takeaway. But the writing audio drama actually provides, I can scratch the itch of creativity, because that's always been what I do. I love to create, and I love audio as a means of creation, and this allows me the opportunity to do that.
Um, Here's a thought that just came to me. What's the best thing or most joyful thing that's happened to you during these last 30 years in the audio drama world? For instance, the thing that took me by surprise by founding Dramafy, because I needed some place to put my audio dramas. But what surprised me is I have fallen in love with all of my creators. They're friends
Mm.
now. And that's such a joyful part of, creating Dramafy, and k and keeps me going with Dramafy, because I feel I owe it to all of my wonderful creators. So, what's the best thing that's happened to you in this world, in this audio drama world?
Two things. First of all, the sense of community, that
Yeah,
you mentioned.
yeah.
Um, when I first started, there was not that. I had no one else to talk to with regard to developing audio drama. It was like, you're on your own, you do it, and if it works, great, and if it doesn't, too bad,
Yep.
and who's going to tell you? And so it was one of those things that, there is such a dynamic, community of audio drama creators now. And, thankfully, I guess the ones that I'm most closely associated with, like you say, they wind up becoming friends. And, I help them with, some of their projects. They help me with some of mine. And, that part is good. And the other is from the time, our daughter was born, which was 1995, a year after I started writing audio drama. She, my son, and 4 of my 5 grandchildren have all helped me do some voice work on audio dramas, and they're not there all the time, but like in grandpa time, I have 3 of my grandsons that show up as Charlie at various ages. So, the community and the link of audio drama to family are probably the 2 things that mean the most.
I love that. And I totally agree with you. I mean, I didn't even know much about audio drama when we started putting Dramafy together. And
Mm.
um it's fun because now when I listen to your credits at the end of your shows, it's like, "Oh, I know Bethany. Oh, I know Jonathan. Oh, I know Alicia. They're all my friends now."
Yeah,
It's great.
yeah.
Um, okay, here's a good question. Oh, actually, I'm gonna hold off on that one because while we're on kind of the audio drama writing stuff, let me ask you this, because I know this is gonna be important to people who are listening and want to get into doing audio drama. What advice do you have for new audio drama writers and creators?
Just right. Make it a grand experiment. If it fails, it fails, but, find that freedom to fail, because you're gonna need that. If you go into it with the pressure of, "I've got to be just as good as this person that's been out for a while," or I wanna create something just like this other person," um, that's its own failure too, and hopefully you learn from that. But if you go in with the idea that it's okay to fail, you're gonna create things, and I always refer to many of the things like the micro audio dramas like Wednesday's Weather and Grandpa Time. It's like, this
Right.
is a grand experiment for me. How do you take a what should be 20 to 30 minute or longer audio drama, try to condense it down to 5 minutes and still have it be satisfying for the listener? And in some respects it is, because people have almost no time these days. So having something that's really short that they can digest quickly just sort of made sense. And so I have had, and I'll just do this as a little tempting thing or a little tease. Um, Bethany, who plays one of the characters in Wednesday's Weather and the end of Grandpa Time, she said, "So when is my character going to get a backstory?" So it could be spring that we hear another chapter in that, another 6-episode chapter, but based on her backstory.
Oh, good. Good. That'll be nice. I'll enjoy that.
So I don't know whether I fully answered your question or not, but
You did. You did.
here we are.
Y
Okay.
You said just right. Right, just right. Make it a grand design. Here's a good question. This was the one I was gonna ask you before I got off on the audio drama. Why should uh, the advice. Why should people listen to your shows?
Um, this is going to sound really strange. I'm not saying you have to. Um,
Okay.
I yeah, I had somebody ask me when I applied for a job one time, "Why should we hire you?" And I said, "I'm not sure you should." Yeah,
Did you get the
I'm not
job?
begging, and I got the job, yes.
There you go. I love it.
Um,
I love it.
but, I guess I just sort of feel like, I create these, um, because they mean something to me. I create them because they mean something to the actors that are involved. And I'm hopeful that the audience is going to appreciate it, find some enjoyment, and maybe learn something from it. There's no guarantee. And so when somebody says, "Why should I view your stuff?" I mean, I could point out to awards and things that have been won over the years with the audio drama that I've done, and I could point to those kind of things. But um, I'm just like, it's there. I I welcome you to listen if you want to, but I really don't want to try to sell anyone on who I am and what I do. If you like it and you share it and people enjoy it, hey, I'm happy about that. But if you decide it's not for you, well, I'm sure there's something else that is.
Okay, let's go along that line then, because I totally agree with you. What do you hope that people, let's say they listen to your shows, they take a risk and listen to your shows. What do you hope that they take f away from your show?
I hope, I guess, simply because of the way that I write, and you've mentioned it before. It's like whether it's comedy or not, there's a gentle flow that happens with this. I hope that many of them, maybe if they're dealing with very difficult things, to realize that there is, even if it's just a fictional world, there are people living in a place where, they don't have to have that sense of struggle. Um, and there are shows that I've written where struggle is present, but um, hopefully, unlike sitcoms of the '80s, it's not just all tied up in a nice, easy bow at the end. Sometimes you're left to wonder what happens, but just to think that there might be a different answer to questions they've been asking themselves.
Okay, good. Um, I have to tell you that I listened to all of Wednesday's Weather, and which is just another one of those gentle stories that you have. Just a couple of people getting together and talking. And I don't want to spoiler alert. But what happened at the end, I found myself getting a little verklempt. It was lovely. It was really lovely. I love the messages that you have in your stories that don't hit you over the head. They're just kind of, here it is, and take it or don't. It's quite nice. Um, let's just for just a second, let's turn to some nerdy stuff. Um, like both you and I have been writing for a long time. I used to always only write on college ruled lined paper with a clear Bic pen. You know, the old Bic pens that were clear and you could
Yep.
see, because I love to see the ink go down. And I knew that I was writing a lot if that ink was going down. How do you write? What do you just write? Do you write freehand first? Do you write onto the computer? How do you
Yeah.
approach the technical aspect of writing?
I write very much on the computer, always,
I think we all do now.
the
It's just
primary
fast.
reason for that is if I write freehand, I may have some great ideas, but 10 minutes later, I will not be able to decipher whatever it was I just wrote down. And,
You know?
so
Of
I have to
course.
attend meetings in my day job, and, that's one thing that I often see is how do I, get across the information that I learned at this meeting for the report that I'm putting together, because I do freehand that, and I have to just sit there and look and look and look at stuff sometimes to figure out what the world I had in mind when I wrote that down. But yeah, from uh, the first moment that I got my first computer, which I got secondhand for $125 years ago, um, I have constantly used the computer as my main and primary source for writing anything down.
I hear you. And what I also found is that, uh, if if you don't write on the computer, it's real when you get an idea and you wanna insert it, you have to, like, write in the margin and,
Right.
like, arrows go down to this place and try to decipher the treasure map that you've created. Um, is there any other grain of wisdom that you'd like to impart? Sorry, I just hit the mic. That you'd like to impart to young or aspiring writers of audio drama?
Okay, I've got probably 30 or more stories that are just sitting on the shelf that were written over many years. And some of them I pulled out, like Slipping Past the Garden Gate would be an example of Amplified Mortals was another one that had been sitting around for 15, 20 years before I did something with it. I put together what I call a brain dump. And that's just a file that I have on my computer that if I get a scrap of an idea, I put it in there. Doesn't have to connect with anything, but, it's an idea, and I can't tell you how many times I've gone back to it, and suddenly it's like, that would be a plot twist for this story that I'm writing, and so I erase it from the brain dump and put it into a story that I'm writing. Um, I've heard from several people that it's like, I wrote stuff, but I thought it was junk, so I got rid of it. Now I'm wondering, was there something there? Like, there absolutely could be. If you've got something, especially on a computer, it's not gonna take up extra space. Just put it in there and deal with it later. It doesn't have to be a complete project. It can be, uh, total garbage from your estimation, at this point, but give it some time, get some more life experience, and by the time you get back to it, there might actually be a story there that you did not see when you wrote it the first time.
I totally agree. You call it brain dump, I call it brain barf. So, it's whoa, great minds. Um, a couple more questions. I wanna kinda zero in on Dramafy since, you know, we are, uh, always encouraging new writers and creators to come to Dramafy and submit to Dramafy. Um, how has your experience been with Dramafy? You did decide to go exclusive with us, which thrilled me to no end. So, how has your experience as a creator been with us over here at Dramafy?
I think people will come at this from a wide variety of perspectives, and I will talk, I guess, about why I chose exclusive and why that's kind of important to me. Finding a home for audio dramas is not always an easy thing. Um, you can work to create your own website. You can maybe put some stuff on Spotify, or you could figure out ways to get the audio out. In my case, I thought that having a unified one-stop shop for whatever it is I produce just made sense. And I don't know that I'm super great at the whole idea of marketing, which is weird because I've been in radio and I understand commercials like you can't believe. I'll market for anybody else, but for myself, it just seems weird. I don't really, you know, enjoy saying, "Hey, this is my stuff. You should listen to it." Um,
Yeah, no.
but there's that. I think it does save some time and effort on my part to just say, "Hey, if you're looking for my stuff, it's at Dramafy. Just go check it out there. It's easy. It's convenient. It looks great. Sounds great. It's all there." And so I have appreciated that, and I do know that today there's options like Gumroad and some others where people can go and chip in a donation or whatever to listen to whatever product you develop. And I I like the fact that if people go to Dramafy, they can have a choice. They can set that up to support this site by a subscription, or they can listen at no cost through an ad based platform. But it does give them some choices that maybe they don't have in other places. So it really did to me just seem like a pretty good fit for uh, what I produce and put out. And I'm very pleased that from the very first drama I sent you, was Slipping Past the Garden Gate,
Mhm.
that it's um, been well received on your part to go ahead and see fit to put them on. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. So it sounds like you might recommend us to other creators, huh?
Oh, absolutely. I understand there's a lot of options, and there always is. It's just like,
Yeah.
when I'm talking on the radio, it's like you have an option. You can listen to all kinds of different places, but you chose to listen here. So, man, we're grateful. And what I see you do is seek to super serve the audio drama community. To say it isn't just one creative influence that we have here. It's coming from a wide variety of angles and a wide variety of genres, and it's categorized for you. It should be easy to navigate. And in the year and a half or so that I've been there, it's been interesting to see the changes that have made those things even easier and more. Um, they just look nice. It's easy to navigate and it just looks nice.
Thank you. And that's exactly what we were going for. It's easy to navigate and it looks nice.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about that we haven't talked about?
Okay. For the rest of the year, coming up, and it's probably out now by the time this shows up, but the Dragnet, the Goliath story,
Mhm.
and I can't remember the title. It's like Dream Destroyer Dethroned, I think is the name of that. The next one will show up next month, or should anyway, and that's Esther, the story
Oh,
of Esther.
good, good. Looking forward to that.
And yeah, and then we've got the Christmas ones, and there's actually three that are coming out this year. There is On Demand Christmas. There is It Happened on Chambers Street, and John Fornoff and Kira O'Brien are in that one. That
Oh,
turned
good.
out amazing.
Wow.
And then Christmas at the Canteen, which is set in the 1940s at an actual canteen location, North Platte, Nebraska. That's also, those three are coming out this year as well. And I wouldn't have done three. I hadn't planned on doing three. But Austin Peachy, who is an audio drama influencer, he basically said, I don't know why you couldn't do three. So there's that. And I'm also working on a Russian folktale for next Christmas. I've got just one or two more bits of audio to come in, and I can probably start doing that this week. So that one will wait, but it's the cobbler, the cabbage, and the Christmas cup. And so it's a story that's been around forever, but I've expanded it beyond what people usually think of as about a 2-minute story to be about 25. So that'll be next year.
Woohoo! Oh, I can't wait for the canteen thing. I've got this. I think I slipped out of heaven during the 1940s and went down, came down to earth, and because I've got this affinity for the 1940s. It's kind of weird, but I love the 1940s.
I think you'll like it.
Good.
I just sure hope you do.
I'm sure I will. Well, I want to thank you so much for spending this time with us, and it's great getting to know you better, and keep them coming because Glenn Hascall's work is lovely. So everybody, tune in to Dramafy. Come over to Dramafy. It's easy. It's easy to navigate, and it looks nice. So there you go. We have over 270 shows, so there's got to be something there you're gonna like. And so thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you later.